Welcome to I Hate Critics 1994, or as our Facebook page calls it, Everyone's a Critic 1993.
Fuck off.
I am professional film critic Sean Patrick. With me is Amy.
I'm professional ne'er-do-well. Amy Sheballs. That's me. That's me.
And you can find us on Facebook at Everyone's a Critic 1993.
I just have to remember the password change. That's all I have to remember. So once I can do that, but then I will change it. So I'm going to our Facebook right now to figure out the password. But until then, we have a couple of things to discuss. Now that we are 1994.
It's officially 30 years since I was in high school.
I hate that. Because that means it's 29 years since I was in high school.
Yeah. 1994 was my senior year.
Jesus Christ. I hated 1994.
I don't remember 1994 apparently because the movies are a fucking misery.
Okay. One is for sure.
They both were fucking miserable as far as I'm concerned.
I am here to defend the other one to the hilt. So
you're good luck with that.
Yeah, I know.
We're starting, of course, with the misery that is Cabin Boy. Cabin Boy, starring Chris Elliott, is a terrible film about that hasn't had an idea. It started with an interesting idea, directed by Adam Resnick, who I think is not a bad director. Maybe he is. I don't remember if he's any good or not. He's certainly not based on this. Is he any good?
Oh my God, you're so wrong. But go ahead.
This movie is terrible. Chris Elliott plays a fancy boy
He's a fancy boy.
He's a fancy boy named Nathaniel who ends up on the wrong boat. It happens to be a fishing boat filled with smelly people, smelly character actors, who treat him like crap, and nothing funny happens for 80 solid minutes, excuse me. Thankfully, this movie is the only thing good about it is that it's short, and that David Letterman says the phrase, "Want to buy a monkey?"
Letterman's fucking. I love that scene so fucking much.
I went into this hoping this would be like a hidden gem. Like I wanted it to be like this, this thing that people forgot about that was actually brilliant. And man, is it fucking miserable.
You are so
wrong. It is a slog to get through this fucking 80 minutes of just unfunny nonsense.
It's not funny to you, but Chris Elliott's one of the reasons why I started liking comedy in the first place.
It's lovely that you have nostalgia. Take those glasses off for a second and tell us about this fucking movie.
This fucking movie. That's what's so great about Chris Elliott in this movie is that he's so mindless. He doesn't even realize just how arrogant nor how stupid he is. One of my favorite exchanges, he's talking about the stars. He's like, I love sitting up here looking at those bright twinkly things in the sky. I forget their technical name. And then the girl, she's like, stars, and he goes, whatever. He's just so arrogant. I love little moments like that. There's so many dumb things he does in this. By the way, and again, because I liked this movie, and I know I'm of a minority, but Andy fucking Richter's in this movie, and I love everything he does in it. I love every little thing he says in it. He makes me so happy. Lots of little cameos in here too, which just thrilled me to no end. But anyway, yeah, he gets on this boat, which you're talking about how it was a slog. I thought it was rather cool to look at. I liked it. Ooh. I liked the way it looked. I thought that just the production itself, it kind of felt like a play. And I think that it takes a certain person with just enough stupidity, such as myself, to thoroughly enjoy shit like this. Because to me, Chris Elliott was doing something back then that I think that other comedians have gotten away with years later, and kind of perfected it. I think he had an idea. I think the idea I still think it's a funny idea. I still think that some of it translated well. It's just the movie as a whole, everybody wanted to hate it, but like he wasn't out there trying to, invent the wheel, reinvent the wheel. He wasn't out there trying to change the landscape of film. He was out there having fucking fun and just making a dumb movie about a dumb guy. Did you ever watch Get a Life?
Yeah. It was hit and miss for me.
See, that's what I remember. I remember being like 12 years old and watching Get a Life and thinking, I love this guy. But I remember him on Letterman. I remember a lot of those little things that he would do on there. Again, it was a joy to see Letterman in this. Want to buy a monkey? It's such a great line.
I think that for me is the only funny thing, but it's only funny to me in retrospect because Letterman bagged on this movie so hard.
Yeah. Well, of course he did, because he had to. But Chris Elliott remained a great friend of his for, ever.
They're both still alive.
Yeah. I know a lot of you kids might not know this, but they're both still alive. Letterman looks like Santa.
You're talking about them like they're not even alive anymore.
Well, no, this was kind of like a heyday for them, though. Like this was an era of time, like Letterman going through it. Oh, hang on. That's my Jesus Christ clock. It goes off with James Earl Jones giving me a passage from the Bible on the top of each hour, and it just went off.
Fuck.
Oh, it's a great clock. I'd shout out to my friend Renee who gave that to me for Christmas. It's just beautiful. Because now I can run up to the clock and go, Jesus Christ, what time is it? I know it's a dumb joke, but I will do it forever. So, but I mean, also you've got great character actors. I mean, you've got fucking Russ Tamblyn in this movie, who I loved him. I fucking loved him.
He plays a merman who is he in love with Chris Elliott's character?
Why do you automatically go there?
I don't know. I was trying to figure out his motivation. I didn't understand the motivation. He continuously saves Chris Elliott's character from various dangers, whether it's drowning or a giant who tries to kill him at some point.
Yeah. Yes. I like how the giant's dressed too. Like he's not dressed like a normal giant. He's dressed like, doesn't he have like a tie on? And he's just
he was at the store. He was selling things at his store that day on an abandoned island to satisfy his 8-armed wife.
Yeah. And Magnuson, by the way.
Unrecognizable.
She helps clean the pipes, which again, great fucking line. I don't understand why. He goes from
being a cabin boy to a cabin man.
Cabin man. Absolutely he does.
He wants desperately to be absurd, and it is absurd, but it's never absurd to me in a particularly funny way.
I don't understand.
It feels just entirely random to me. This just random asides that everybody involved seems to think is funny, but just does not play for me.
Well, I'm sorry for that. Because I mean, to me, I just disagree. I think again, I remember being probably 17 when this came out, and I thought, why do I like this so much? Because I love. To me, this was Chris Elliott kind of spearheaded that that absurdist kind of thing for me, just in that period of time. Which then, I mean, if you go on and you watch stuff like Wet Hot American Summer and shit like that, they all come from these brains that just can exaggerate a moment. And that's all this movie is. It's just exaggeration of moments.
I think it's just I don't find Chris Elliott to be an appealing lead. I don't find him being a fancy boy. It's a funny idea, but then it just doesn't. It doesn't really. It just doesn't build on that funny idea to me.
Do you know what's kind of funny about that too? That you say that is that. Who was it? Was it in an article or was it Chris that said it? Something to the effect of. Once this movie came out, it basically wiped out all of his chances to be a leading man. And I'm like, I just did never see Chris Elliott as being a leading man outside of doing something like Get a Life or like this. I don't see like not like a romantic lead.
Well, here's the thing of it is it was supposed to be directed by Tim Burton, and I think they were trying to go for something along the lines of a Pee Wee Herman style leading man. And Pee Wee Herman I find to be a much more appealing person because he's just his shtick is so much more. It's just so much more coherent. It's cogent. It makes sense. Like his weirdness makes a lot more sense in that character as opposed to Chris Elliott, who just doesn't have a defined personality.
Oh, I disagree.
I mean, I don't think there's not, but like with Paul Rubens, with Pee Wee Herman, you have two distinct people. You have two, and Pee Wee Herman specifically as a character distinctly exists apart from Paul Rubens, whereas Chris Elliott is Chris Elliott, and he doesn't have. I don't think Cabin Boy was going to become Pee Wee Herman. You know what I mean? No,
and I don't think that they were really necessarily striving for that.
That is what they were going for in trying to get Tim Burton involved. They wanted, because that's the type of leading man that he was going to have to be if he was going to be a leading man.
I think they wanted Tim Burton because they're weird and Tim's weird, and it was going to be a weird movie. I think it's as simple as that. In my take.
Just the sense that I get is that I think they wanted that because he's so successful with making Pee Wee Herman and Pee Wee's Big Adventure. I think they wanted that. They knew that they had an unconventional leading man who could not be a leading man under any other circumstance. That's why you want Tim Burton.
We had a lot of unconventional leading men in the 90s, didn't we, though? Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey was pretty handsome, though, even with the Ace Ventura thing. I mean, he could be normal and handsome.
To me, he didn't get handsome.
Chris Elliott is not going to ever be going to be considered a leading man handsome.
I think you just think of him in There's Something About Mary. I think that's all the boils on his face and shit. I think that's what you're thinking of.
No, he's paunchy with a receding hairline. He was never going to be like a handsome leading man. Jim Carrey could have played it straight his entire career and made movies like The Majestic. Like he could have.
I didn't find him attractive until Eternal Sunshine, to be honest. And that movie was just so ethereal and gorgeous.
I'm not a good judge of this. I'm not a gay man. I'm not sexually attracted to men. But I'm saying that in terms of conventional handsomeness, Jim Carrey, yes. Chris Elliott, no. Am I wrong?
I just think that it's a preference thing. Because I've been attracted to very conventionally,
Well, you don't. I mean, you find Gary Oldman with dreads and a gold tooth handsome, so you're not.
But I look for the heart, Sean.
The character murdered multiple people.
He did. He really did. But God, he was hot doing it. One of the lines in this movie that is one of my favorites, and I cannot believe I've never used it in any of my social media bios because it's so. I think it is very much me. Not like more like me saying it about somebody, but it's Nathaniel. He's like, I just don't get it. She seems totally uninterested in me despite my smothering obsessiveness, and that's so me. I love that fucking line.
In the abstract, like, you could pull a couple of things out of here that could be funny, but I just don't think any of it plays within these characters. I don't find any of them interesting or appealing. Especially the side characters to me they're just dull, honestly. Like the three fisherman guys, I recognize them as well-known character actors, but like they're just four of them, I guess. There are four of them. They couldn't do better than that. They couldn't find people who could actually be funny in those roles.
Wow. We did not watch the same movie.
You found what Brian James and James Gammon were doing funny, because I didn't for a moment. I don't find those guys funny.
If you step outside of your narrow view, I think you would walk away going, yeah, they were pretty fucking funny. Again, there was a lot of shit being made back then that was so absurd that to me, like this kind of like fever dream absurdity, it worked for me. It absolutely worked for me. And, you know, you've got great people in this movie. You've got Brian Doyle Murray. The only person that I don't think was very interested in this movie, but still made me laugh, was Melora Walters. Totally forgot she was in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I really liked how she looked upset about being in the movie. I don't know if that was a choice, but that still worked for me. It still worked.
She plays a woman who is swimming around the world. Is that right?
Yeah. Hey, did you happen to notice Ricky Lake in this movie?
Yeah. She played the filthy whore, the masthead of the filthy whore.
She did. Did you notice in one scene she had a beard?
Yeah, I didn't understand the joke. That totally didn't land with me.
It's just fucking funny. That's all. It just is what it is.
It's just fucking random is what it is. And that's really all the humor in this movie is just random shit happening.
That's why I love it. That's why I fucking love it.
I did not. I was like, just one thing after another that was completely disconnected from there's no story. Like, there's no story happening here. It's just one random thing happens after another until the movie ends.
There is a story
with him riding her back to the to the whore.
A filthy whore. God damn it! I'm gonna call my car that. I can't believe I forgot about that shit. All aboard the filthy whore. God damn it! See, that shit's that flies with me. That absolutely flies with me. I'm forever going to be a Chris Elliott apologist because I think he's amazing. I love him. If you never saw Schitt's Creek, he was fantastic in that. Pretty much anything he's done or anything he does do from here, I'm always going to be interested. There's just something about him that is so off the wall, balls bonkers, that I'm like, yeah, I'll follow you anywhere. I think you're just weird enough to be one of my favorite people. And that's just it.
Well, I'm happy for you. It did not do anything for me at all.
Your condescension is not needed. Thank you.
I'm not saying somebody has to be conventionally attractive to be interesting, but they have to be interesting. And I didn't find them interesting. I didn't find one of the characters in this movie to be interesting. I didn't enjoy how remarkably random it was. I really just wanted Letterman back the entire time. Just bring those monkeys back. That was the only funny thing in the movie.
Oh, you know, just to share this story, I had a friend once that actually got to go to Letterman.
Yeah.
And he actually gave Dave a sock monkey from the audience. Actually gave it to him, and I saw the picture and everything. It's pretty classic. So not that I give a shit about any of that, but ultimately that is pretty cool. It's a nod. It's a nod to Cabin Boy.
I gotta say, there's one funny thing on the IMDb page, because I'm looking here at the trivia for the IMDb page, and there's one funny thing in the whole thing, and that is the fact that in the trivia for this movie, it says the mysterious and deadly Hell's Bucket is an obvious play on the Bermuda Triangle, except for the map shows Hawaii in the same area. And that's not the funny part. The funny part is that the three people found this helpful and 19 people did not. 19 people wanted to object specifically to this being trivia about this movie.
Oh my God. This isn't a Yelp review. Wow.
I don't understand. I'm going to send that to you so you can specifically just put that piece of trivia on the Facebook page.
I can do that. I absolutely will do that.
Because it is the most random thing in the world.
God. You know, if you go to the IMDb page, you'll notice it says two nominations for awards. Both one's Razzie and one's the Stinkers. I don't fucking care. I own this on DVD thanks to a friend that I used to have, and I will watch it whenever I fucking feel like it. Thank you.
Well, you enjoy yourself. Have fun watching this terrible film.
I definitely will.
Because it's not good.
To you. To you. And it's not about being good. It's about the randomness that it is. And I embrace the randomness because I'm all about that. So having said that, what's a good seg into the shit that we had to sit through this morning?
There isn't one. There's just one bad movie into another, I guess, for me.
For you. But oh my God, I had such rose-colored glasses with this because I enjoyed the first two of this film series. And you know what? The only thing I will say about this before we even say the title of it, again, solid soundtrack. Because I'm a huge fan of R&B, especially 90s R&B and hip hop, and I dug the fuck out of it. Having said that, House Party 3 was fucking awful.
From the moment it started, it was terrible. Just opening misogyny. First of all, and it still persists today. We see it on TikTok all the time, this kind of humor where like, oh, you're getting married. Let's say bye to your freedom. What the fuck?
And that they just kept doing it throughout the movie. Like there was no come to Jesus moment where it's like, hey, this might be a good thing, except for like the very tip end where play is like, I think she's probably good for you. Fuck you, dude. You wanted me to like fuck around with all these other chicks. Oh my God, this movie, you could drive a Mack truck through the dialogue, through like when somebody has to say a line, it's like, oh, it's my line. Okay, here I go. And it starts off in the bedroom, kid waking up, and I don't remember this about the first two is that the first one I thought was it was much tighter. The second one with the pajama jammy jam, fuck yeah. This one, it felt like they were trying to go for a very natural, kind of conversational dialogue. Like they're just making it up as they go. There is no script.
They did make it up as they go. That is actually what happened. Yes.
That was their first mistake. Because aside from Bernie Mac and maybe Candy Alexander, the acting in this was horrible.
Miserable.
Oh God.
So bad. Like, and I think I know what happened here.
Okay.
There's this thing called mission creep, where you start off with a mission objective, and the objective just creeps in the wrong direction eventually over time because you just sort of lose perspective. I think Kid and Play, what happened to them is the same thing that happened to Hammer. Hammer becomes a superstar doing this family-friendly rap that is very easy and digestible, and then he desperately wants cred. He wants to be treated like a serious superstar, and so he puts out Pumps and a Bump and like tries to be hardcore. And I think this is Kid and Play this is like their Matt Rife moment where they're like, hey, no, guys like us too. Like we're hardcore. We can be hardcore. Look how mean we are to women. Because the first two House Party movies are successful because they have a broad appeal. They're almost like they're bordering on family movies. Like as much as those guys are about getting laid in those movies, they're still basically like family friendly movies for the most part, and this is not.
Well, no, not only that though. Okay, it's funny that you brought up Hammer and Pumps and a Bump because I thought about like the minute you said that I was like I went to Bobby Brown Pumping Around.
Yeah.
There was a shift in hip hop and R&B at this very period of time. Same with like what was kind of underground alternative music started to become more mainstream. Like this is where we were seeing a lot of that shift, and you had to go harder. And sorry, when Bobby Brown did it and MC Hammer or just Hammer, it was laughable. This doesn't work. And then this one definitely.
It kind of worked with Bobby Brown. It kind of worked for him.
Pumping Around. fuck
I
no.
thought that record was pretty good.
Bobby.
I had that record. I listened to it a lot.
Oh my God. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it like raisins in a potato salad. I cannot do that.
Returning to the point here, that rap that Kitten played to at the end, where it's just basically just talking about how much, just talking about his dick, just rapping about his dick.
But if you notice, Kid, again, at least there was one cohesive through line from the first movie to this one, is that he's still a bumbling idiot.
Mm-hmm.
And but he's still the nice guy. But at the same time,
is he though? I mean, he's like an incel nice guy, I think, for the most part. The way he talks sometimes, like early on, where he's like trying to have sex with his girlfriend, and she's just trying to get ready and go to work.
Oh, that line, Sergeant Sausage.
Oh fuck.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm saying he's 90s nice guy.
Fair. Okay.
We definitely know what 90s nice guy is, and that is
it's the birth of incel culture.
Absolutely, 100%, 100%. You know what? I'm watching it and I'm thinking, okay, I'm a dumb middle-aged white Midwesterner. Is this movie for me? Well, you know what? The first two were. I fucking love those, and again, solid soundtracks, solid music. What pissed me off though is that I'm seeing TLC in this film.
Oh, they're awful.
It's so cringe. It's so cringe. But beyond that, it's like, God. So we're talking about 1994, right? Mm-hmm. Crazy Sexy Cool, one of the biggest fucking albums, one of my favorites from my teenage years, is about to hit and knock the fucking socks off of people. And they did this fucking movie. And yes, we will mention that horrible child band, Immature.
Fucking miserable.
Fuck
and
them.
just a crime in progress.
Oh my God.
It's just a crime in progress.
They're like, 11, 12 years old, and they're already, trying to spit some game like they're about to just take these girls home. I mean, what?
What were they trying to do when they were hitting on those little girls? What exactly was we're going to get you home and do what? You're 11.
And even the way that they dress, it looks like they just put on daddy's, vests and then eye patches. Oh, can we back up?
Yeah, sure.
We got Aunt Lucy in this fucking movie.
Oh my God.
Early onset Alzheimer's.
Yeah. That's the joke the entire time, is that she can't remember where the stairs are. She doesn't remember who the kid's fiance is.
Fiance is, right.
Can't remember who she is. And this is supposed to be funny.
I think what disturbed me the most was that they gave her the wrong VHS tape. And she's up there with her soup and she's watching fucking porn.
Yeah.
And she's just like, I mean, again, I don't take away sexuality from anyone at any age, but the way that they juxtaposed it made it so uncomfortable for me, especially with the fact that it's early onset Alzheimer's. And it's like, oh, well, we're just having this banger of a party downstairs. And this old woman's up there not knowing if she's coming or going. Mm-hmm. It was icky. It made me feel icky.
Well, it's not funny. Just as a premise, that's not funny. They don't do anything funny with it, but it's also just not a funny idea. You shouldn't have done it.
No.
Come up with a different joke. What would the other joke be? That she's just horny all the time? That's probably, like that classic Simpsons gag. I'm hauling ass to Lollapalooza. Like, that's the other way you go with that joke, I guess.
Yeah. What I think what this movie does is it removes any sort of happy memories that I've ever had. And then also, but from those first two that were just meant to be fun. And but I was really scared because I thought, man, if we get to the end of this movie and they end up busting out, ain't gonna hurt nobody. Like I was waiting for them to bring that song back, because again, we've moved on from that period of time. What they did was, they just throughout the film systematically brought down those first two movies and just made it seem like this was a standalone horrible film by Kid and Play. It doesn't fit. And then, to bring back Tisha Campbell as Sydney, but to give her the lamest, these lines, like there's a scene where she goes into
so
kids.
Cringe.
Oh my God. No one would do that. I am all for women building up women, but I'm sorry, Sydney, the Sydney that we knew from the first two movies wouldn't do that. I didn't see that motivation at all. Like, she's going on with her life. Yes, she may be back visiting her grandparents or whatever. She wouldn't do that. You just avoid that shit. Sydney was a smart girl.
But it's just a weird, awkward scene that doesn't do anything. It doesn't add to the story. It doesn't further the plot. The idea here is that the kid's getting married. He's met this woman and fallen in love. She is, by the way, a complete non-entity. If you remember her name, please let me know, because, like, honestly, that character has just zero personality. Just complete non-presence. This woman.
Her name was Vita in the movie. Angela Means, and the acting. I was so uncomfortable.
Just miserable. But she's just a complete non-presence. So the whole premise is centering around a bachelor party that Play is throwing for Kid. That they're going to get a stripper and he's going to get laid and all this garbage. And it keeps coming back to this thing about, now that he's getting married, every woman wants to sleep with him. And he wants to sleep with every one of them, but he can't because, I'm getting married.
Oh, and there's that whole misunderstanding moment in the film where his fiance is overhearing the conversation between, Kid and Play, and fucking Stinky, that fucking asshole character. I hated him so much.
Same joke over and over again. He's small and he smells bad.
And he loves fat girls.
Oh, God, what the fuck?
That was so disturbing to me. And it just kept going. Now, mind you, this is played by a guy that was on the second Real World, known for harassing.
Oh, that guy, yeah.
Yeah.
They had to throw him off the show because he was such a creep. And
then I watched the reunion that came out a couple years ago, and they were all like, yeah, we were really hard on you. And I'm like, no, he pulled her out of bed. She was in her pajamas, and that was pretty wrong. He still was gross. And again, I get that he was on this whole comedy thing in the early 90s. I didn't give a fuck. I didn't give a fuck about one character in this movie at all. And that's not how I felt about the first two. I liked these characters. I liked them. I thought, this is a world that, I had friends, that we were obsessive with those first two. And this just basically said, fuck the first two movies. Let's just make something that is just grotesque.
Well, as much as like the first two movies are about them wanting to get laid, there's still like a charm to it. And there's still sort of an innocence to it.
Right. Because they're still pretty young, and
they're young and they're ambitious and they're funny and they're charismatic, and you buy in, and the women in their lives are keeping them in check, are making sure that they're respectful. Like the women in those movies had, like Queen Latifah's character, like they had power, they had presence, they had, they were not going to be taken advantage of, they were not going to be treated poorly and this movie is just, they don't play into that aspect at all. They just want to prove, how hard they are. Like, everything's about, like, the whole thing that Play is doing throughout the entire movie is getting women to sleep with him through lies, just lying to women just repeatedly to get them into bed.
Awesome. We love that.
What a miserable character trait to give your main character, one of your two main characters, that his only thing in the world is using his position in the music industry to try and sleep with vulnerable women.
Well, Play, he is a player, and I say that in the whitest way I possibly can.
The shift from the pajama jammy jam thing, where it's this kind of sweet, fun story about them growing up and learning lessons, to this, it feels like that shift from like trying to be, one minute you're guys who are kind of mainstream, and now, we don't want that. We don't want that. We want to be hardcore. We want to prove how tough we are and how cool we are with the ladies.
And all I kept thinking was, I watched your Saturday morning cartoon, Kid and Play.
It's like, guys, you already sold out. I mean, sold out. Just enjoy the trappings of having sold out, because you sold out years ago.
Just take the money and run, babies. You don't have to make another fucking movie. This was a waste of money. This was a waste of time. I like the minute the credits came out, I'm like, well, I'll never get that back. So I mean, I went and did laundry. I felt defeated. My Jesus clock went off, and I'm like, yes, thank you, Jesus and James, for coming through for me. There was so much money thrown at shit like this back then.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, finding a great film in the 90s is so few and far between. I really believe that, because it just seems to me like, well, hopefully, because I mean, we're about to go into a kind of the burgeoning of Miramax, a really good time in films. Sadly, it has to do with the Weinsteins, but
we hope. I mean, who knows? 30 years later, this we could still be just looking back at these things. Because I don't remember the House Party 3 being this bad, but it is. God. It's terrible. It's fucking miserable to watch this now, 30 years later.
One of the scenes that upset me the fucking most, just pissed me off, was the dinner at Vida's parents' house.
What the fuck was that scene? That does nothing for the movie. Nothing advances, nothing is told, and nothing funny happens.
Once again, we're taking a woman with early onset Alzheimer's. And again, maybe I'm taking this far too seriously. We're taking this woman and Uncle Vester, which again, Bernie Mac, I will take him in anything. I love that man. Mm-hmm. I will always love him. And again, the only acting we got was from Bernie Mac in this movie. And some of his lines were pretty classic. It's just classic Bernie. But Vita's parents are like, they're like very, hoi polloi, upper echelon.
But they're also asking reasonable questions about whether or not he's actually going to be able to have a job and not force his wife to support him for the rest of their lives. Like, they're not being unreasonable. At the same time, you've got this whole thing about Kid and Play again going on about, well, you've got to make money to support your wife. And like, no, she's got a job. She's working. Yeah. She seems to own a business. So, she's fine.
Yeah.
You don't need to support her. She's fine. But then there's that whole thing keeps coming up. But then his parents, I don't want to say, they're not reinforcing values. They're just asking a simple question. Are you a fucking layabout doing nothing? And that's pretty much what he seems like.
Yeah. Yeah. But then what the movie does, which I think is a huge disservice too, is just put them into like the worst kind of black parent trope you've ever seen, where all of a sudden, it's like, dad's got a gun. And he starts shooting at the ceiling, and it's like, no, because that's not how they were established going into the scene. Mm-hmm. Like that didn't make any sense to me. That it just, and it exploded into, and then to end it, where Vita's dropping them off, and Kid goes up to the car, and he's like, "That was a crazy dinner, wasn't it?" What? That was your takeaway? No, people could have gotten killed. Are you fucking kidding me? And then we have my aunt who doesn't know if she's coming or going. This movie, every second, every stop of the way, I had to pause it and breathe.
Because it's fucking miserable.
Oh my God. And then, so all of this is happening. So here's what happens that ultimately ends this film is that Immature, this fucking child, which I hope we never have to return to this era of just making little kids so precocious. It was just gross, but ultimately they served as this point where they were, they're getting ready for this bachelor party where they start stealing like, basically, saying, hey, we want the caterers at the house. We're going to, since we're not invited to the bachelor party,
the strippers should come to our house instead of going to the hotel where Kid and Play are throwing their party.
Yep. And then the utter disgust at the hotel bachelor party when a woman of a bigger size pops out of a cake, and then
Stinky gets one of the women that he's in love with, one of these overweight women that he's invited to this party to come out of a cake as the stripper, and they're all, ew.
And by the way, she's average size, right? Average size, gorgeous, and it's like, oh well, yeah, yep, that makes sense. I would like to ask the writers. I would like to ask Kid and Play themselves, if you could go back in time, would you make this film? Because I don't think it adds to their cachet at all. I don't think it adds to anything that they've done in their career. If anything, this movie is much more of a blight than their cartoon on Saturday mornings. I do.
There's a joke in this movie, and I don't understand what the joke is. It's at the bachelor party. They're trying. First of all, what is this thing about men watching porn at a bachelor party? Is this a thing that people do or did? Everybody just sits there and watches a porno movie at a bachelor party? Just a group of dudes in a room together, just watching porn.
Okay, did you not watch the movie Bachelor Party?
Did they do that in that movie?
They had lots of naked women.
They had actual women there, yeah.
And Adrian Zmed singing.
That made sense to me because there were actual women in the room. It made sense.
With the donkey
these guys were planning to watch a videotape of pornography just in a room full of dudes and women that they didn't find attractive. But instead, the little boys, the mature, the children had switched the pornography with the movie Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And the scene ends. The joke of the scene is that it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles instead of the pornography that they were all going to watch.
Right.
And suddenly all the overweight women start walking toward the screen so they could stare closer at the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. What's the joke?
Oh, because they had pizza in a scene, probably.
Is that the joke?
If that's the joke, it's not even like a cheap shot.
Well, no, it's not funny.
It's just period not funny.
That's just not a funny idea.
Well, also, I'd like to point out too, and I can attest to this.
The overweight women and pizza.
Well, we're talking like, again, early 90s. This is Neanderthal writing, So what disturbs me?
It reminds me of this whole Matt Rife thing where it's like, I've got to do things that show that I'm not just, appealing one way. I've got to appeal to the guys by being cool, But that's like so lame. It's just so obvious and so lame.
And that's
and it's such a cop out.
Didn't do like that. Exactly. But again, we had Tisha Campbell in the first two strong women. We had women, anytime that there was a joke against a woman, there was another woman there saying, no, that's not working. And then, but again, it's like, as this movie tries to go hard, it definitely tries to go hard against, single-celled organisms. We're just offending anybody that we can. But we are at that point in the 90s where being as offensive as possible was what garnered the most laughs. And I'm so glad we're not there. Here we are all these years later, and it's like I wondered why I had so much PTSD from being a heavier chick growing up. I mean, that
we used to make fun of PC culture and make fun of the political correctness. Political correctness was right. They were right, actually. They were right. We were wrong.
With an even measure, though, but tempering it to a point where it's like, yeah, you know what, that was wrong. But, there are ways about.
You don't have to make other people miserable to tell a joke.
That's the end. The end.
And you know who said this recently that blew my mind? Daniel Tosh, of all people, Daniel Tosh said, "You know what? You don't have to make other people miserable to make a joke. You don't have to hurt other people's feelings to make a joke."
Wow.
And it's like, yeah, man, you're right. Like, yeah, totally. You don't.
Well,
it's just not necessary, and it's lazy, and most of the time it's just unfunny.
It's the sophomore humor that we were used to back then, where it's
that
like
we allowed.
Yeah,
that we allowed.
We did.
We allowed that.
But we didn't have, people that are my age now, that are our age now, that have kids that are going back and looking at some of this shit going, what the fuck was wrong with all of you? What, how did you guys just exist like this and just say it was okay? I mean, I think a good 4 years with Trump probably helped with that too. Oh. It's just like, we've seen this shit. We've seen we're outgrowing, thankfully, these archaic ideas of gender norms, for one, and then of two, what is intellectually funny, what is physically funny, and then what is just off limits.
People say you can't be funny today. I watch Cody Ko, Danny Gonzalez, Drew Gooden, Chad, Jarvis, all these people be the funniest people on YouTube every single fucking day, and they don't hurt anybody. They're not punching down at any moment. They don't set out to do harm to others. They don't want to make jokes at other people's expense, and they're still the funniest people on the planet today.
Well, so I think about that too, and I think about the stuff that actually still makes me laugh is stuff like Mr. Show, stuff from the state, comedy troupes that I think did things that again I harken back to the absurdist, because absurdity in comedy is so much more fun, more laughable than just going for somebody's jugular. And in the 90s, especially in this era, that's what we were doing. We were just going at each other.
It's lazy. It's laziness.
It was lazy.
It's the easiest joke. That's what we were doing for so many years, is just take the easiest joke possible. Mm-hmm. Milton Berle wearing a dress. The easiest joke possible. He's a man wearing a dress. Fucking lazy. That's fucking lazy jokes, and we let that go for so many years.
That's because we've had, we had boomers, all this time, and we had boomers for parents. We had boomers just all around us. But at the same time, I think we were lucky enough, you and I, in our family, to have a mom that loved comedy. So we were being more exposed to George Carlin and shit like that, where we're questioning. We're not just thinking one way. It didn't make us better people, because we still went through our own phase of, and there are still people that are our age that are still yeah, that movie's still funny. They would watch it now and go, yeah, that still holds up. No, it fucking doesn't. It just doesn't. Either you move with the times or you don't, but it was never funny then. It's still not funny now.
I'm sure there's somebody listening who goes, they're canceling Kid and Play. Oh my God, you fucking idiot.
Here's the thing, I mean, I still follow both of them on Instagram and stuff like that. And I don't think that they would take this seriously, but
if I was going to cancel a Kid for anything, it's for being friends with Bill Maher, which the biggest heel turn of the last 10 years is fucking Bill Maher. But
I've been watching a lot of old Mystery Science Theater on YouTube, where they actually have the commercials in it.
Yeah.
And I'm thrilled, because all of these old commercial jingles are in my head, and I'm like, oh my God, this is hurting. This is hurting a lot. But there's so many commercials for politically incorrect on there. And I'm seeing all these people that are on there. And one of the commercials was a woman, and I don't remember who she was. I don't remember the episode, but she was just it's fine to teach people about sex education, but when you're bringing condoms into the classroom, that's where I draw the line. And I'm like, oh my God, they were doing, this was 93, 94. And there's a woman that's sitting next to her and she goes, why? Because how are they going to learn if they don't have these things, these tools in the classroom so people can see how to use them? And she's like, I think it's inappropriate. And I'm like, oh my God, that was that era. That definitely still, like, it's like the 50s and the 90s. These people that existed that really thought that it was okay to take, the sex out of sex. And again, I think, then we have this movie where it's like put the sex really into sex.
Ugh.
I think the 90s were for film and for television. I think there was so much confusion. No one knew if they were just alive or dead at that point. How do you even get past all that? How did we even grow up through this era? I don't know.
Who knows?
And just to come out on this end,
The laziness of it is what fucks with me. Like, it's just the lamest fucking shit. It's just the lamest attempts at trying to be hard, the lamest attempts at trying to be, of the moment. Like, because at this point, like, Dre and those guys are shifting the culture of hip hop away from Kid and Play, away from Hammer.
Yeah, we're about to go into like California Love. We're about to go into like, serious like Tupac shit. Like, hip hop was about to really kind of shift a paradigm.
And it just makes Kid and Play look very, very silly.
It looks like the way that we always used to make fun of Will Smith. He was the Walmart of rap. Like, it was that era that we're like, yeah,
well, and Will did it too. I mean, they all did that shift where they tried to prove that they were hard. Yeah. Every one of them tried it. And every time one of the mainstream rappers tried it, they failed. They failed miserably, and they looked like idiots. Like this movie. Like, this movie should be humiliating for Kid and Play to look back on because they look very ridiculous, trying to be hard when they're absolutely not hard. There is nothing hard about them. They're both incredible soft boys.
Yeah. Yep. These are
be who you are. Have a good time. Enjoy your pajama jammy jam.
Yes.
Like, just have fun. That you don't need to prove anything to anybody.
I found them far cooler in the first two movies. I really, really adored them. I had the cassettes. Like, I just like these. I love Kid and Play, and this just removed all of, like, I literally had to shove out all of my good memories and just let myself just kind of float in an ether during this film, because I'm like, well, it wasn't a great time of life, because you're in that late teens kind of moment where it's like, oh, you're about to go off into the world, and now it's like this movie it feels like it's just trying to thrust me into more anger, more pain.
Yeah,
I hate what this movie did to me today. I woke up with a positive attitude.
It's so miserable. And can I just say, for married people, if getting married is so fucking miserable, don't fucking do it.
Just don't do it.
Just don't do it. If you're going into marriage thinking, well, I got to give up this aspect of my life, and I've got to give up this aspect of my life, and I can never be free again, and I really do want to fuck other women, then don't get fucking married. Like,
I think that's why we had Candy Alexander's character in this movie. She was just like, she even said to her cousin, she's like, all right, if you're having second thoughts, you don't have to do it. Like, we needed that kind of bring. Also, I want to bring this up too, because again, I love Candy Alexander. She kind of, hates on Kid throughout the entire movie. And then we get to a point where he is there. He accidentally runs into Sydney, whose grandparents are having a party at the same hotel, and they have like a dumb exchange. It's dumb. It's not even like natural dialogue at all. It's just something that Sydney would not. I just don't think she would have done. And the elevator opens, and it's Veda and her cousin Candy Alexander. Her character takes is it Vita? It's Vita, not Veda. She takes her aside, and she's like, that was an innocent exchange.
Yeah.
You're overreacting. It's like, oh God, finally some reality. Finally somebody who can just kind of take this, because there is no real issue in this movie. Of course, they throw in, like they do in every Kid and Play movie, that they owe money to somebody, that they owe, of course they do.
Yeah.
But they wanted this relationship to bust up in a way. And we had to have, somebody that was still kind of grounded in reality, just by the skin of their teeth. But thankfully, it was her.
But even that scene, though, is such a Deus Ex Machina, such a God in the machine moment where it's like, well, we need a way to put them back together without actually having to do anything. So we'll just do it this way. We'll just put them back together without even trying.
Again, you work with what you get in a script. I think that's what Candy was doing, but it just, it was just. But I also, I did write in my notes. Candy's hair in this movie I love her so much, but I was so upset because at one point her head was actually heart-shaped. Heart-shaped. And you can say what you will about the 90s, but man, my God, the short haircuts on any woman in the 90s, we should all be ashamed. We should all be ashamed. It wasn't our fault, like everybody else was starting to get the Rachel here the next year. And we were all going like, how big? That
giant mushroom on your head, was it your fault?
Oh, God. It's an explosion. And not even an explosion of flavor. It's just sadness. It's just sadness.
Sad.
But yes. So I think for you, I think this year has started off badly.
Oh, so badly. It's fucking miserable looking at the movies of 1994 right now. The first two are just such pain.
And I understand your struggle. Having said that, I think that looking ahead for 94, I think we've got a lot of really good stuff coming up. And I'm saying that with naivete. I'm saying that as
not knowing what's coming up next.
I know. What I'm saying is I am pretending I'm 17 again.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to go into each one of these movies like I'm 17. And pretending that I don't know how awful life gets. I'm just going to go into it with happiness, positivity, and joy. That was not on my resolution list at all, because I had no interest in doing that. But with these films, we have to do that. We do have some coming up that we know are good, that we've actually watched again. We know are good. So we do have some things to look forward to and to critique. But yeah, January, not a good look for you, 94.
The next two movies are exciting. Intersection, which looks like a sweaty movie with Richard Gere and Sharon Stone.
Looking forward to some moisture.
And then Car 54, where are you?
What the fuck? Wait a second. How do I not remember that they took a 50s television show and made it into a film? Are you serious?
Oh, yeah. That's 2 weeks away.
Hang on. I got to bring this up in IMDb. They did. How do I not remember this? Oh my God, David Johansen, fucking New York Doll right there. Are you kidding? Are you kidding? John C. McGinley? Oh shit.
Yeah, that'll be great.
Oh God. I hope MJ returns for this, because if we have to do it,
they should have to do it.
They should have to do it for sure.
Now, did you ever get around to watching Doctor Who?
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, well,
you're the worst Doctor Who fan ever.
Am I?
I mean, if you've not seen Shooty's first episode, yeah, you're the worst Doctor Who fan ever.
I'm just not a fan of a band that sings so readily.
What are you talking about?
Straight from script.
What?
I didn't like the music.
You didn't like the music of the but have you even seen it?
Did I?
Did you?
Did I?
I don't know.
I'm struggling. No. Oh God, Rosie O'Donnell's in that too. I'm sorry. I'm not over Car 54. Okay. No, I saw a clip.
You saw a clip.
A clip where a band was playing, and I got really upset. From Doctor Who.
Wow. Okay.
So I realize, but I also would like to defend myself in that as a person with massive depression and anxiety, I've been kind of doing more comfort things, such as watching old Drew and Danny and Curtis videos. I've been watching Bob's Burgers. I've been watching a lot of MST, just because anything new makes me feel like I'm just on one of those catapults that throws me into old. And I'm struggling. So now that we're in 94, I can actually say that, yes, I'm going to be 47 in February, and watching something new makes me feel like I'm in the future, and I don't like it. And I'm having a time. I'm having a time. I am going to watch it. Oh God, Jeremy Piven's in Car 54. God, oh my God.
Stop looking at Car 54.
I know, but the trailer came up and it's like, I'm seeing all these people in it and I hate it. I hate it already. And Fran Drescher. Oh, Jesus God. Yeah, I would like for our next podcast with MJ that I will be able to discuss that. Like, I will get to it. I've just been very much learning how to wash my dishes every day. I not keep a dish in the sink. That's where I'm at in life right now. So I will get to it.
So with Intersection.
Yeah. Because I remember watching part of that, and it was only because we were in the hospital for something, and it was on the TV in 95.
All right, next week, Intersection.
Also, fuck House Party 3. Don't watch it, please. No.
And Cabin Boy. Don't watch that either.
From Sean. Guys, this will get better. Let's just pray this gets better. It'll get better.
I'm not sure if that's possible with Intersection and Car 54.
Well, Intersection, I have high hopes for, just because you don't put it side by side with Car 54, because I feel like that's too much pressure.
And then it gets worse, Amy.
How?
Ace Ventura Pet Detective.
We are going to do that, aren't we?
Unfortunately.
Oh, good Christ. Well, I think that
this is gonna be miserable for the next 2 months.
Don't say, God. And this is the reason I don't get out of bed until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, because I know what's coming. It's just more pain.
Oh God, it's so bad.
You're looking at it by month?
I am looking at every release for 1994 in front of me.
Okay.
But this month and next month are pretty bad, because I don't know, man. I have a feeling Reality Bites is not going to hold up.
Oh, I think you're wrong, because I just watched it.
I got a bad feeling.
I just watched it a couple of months ago, and it did. It still did it for me.
My Girl 2 doesn't.
Oh, no. No.
His glasses. That's the first one.
Fuck you. Reality Bites can be fine. And by the way, solid soundtrack. We're going to be okay with that one. I promise you. I promise you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well,
good day.
Get ready. Bye.
Update the Facebook.
I will.